Okay, we are now recording. Excellent. All right. So tonight we are going to finish up talking about academic writing. It doesn't mean we're completely done talking about this, but we will be moving on to other topics, at least for a while after tonight. And those of you who have joined us before, we've talked about organizing and structure. We looked at cohesion and coherence last week. And so now we imagine our students have organized their writing, they've done their writing, and now it's time for correction and feedback, which sometimes is the dreaded part of teaching writing. I know not everyone enjoys teaching writing, but I do, but I still do sometimes dread correction and feedback. It's very time consuming. Just a reminder that we are recording this. So if you don't want your image to be used, just keep your camera off. Although I love seeing your faces, especially when you're speaking. So feel free to turn your camera on as well. So today we're going to look at focused error correction. Some kind of strategies for sampling student work instead of looking at all of the work. Making use of self and peer assessment. I know a lot of you, maybe most of you, maybe all of you are working with large classes, larger than I've had experience with. So these are suggestions, and you may have some as well. We'll also look at the value of rubrics. This is something that was mentioned in a previous session. And then we'll look at other writing activities as well. So just to get us going, establish a little bit of foundation here and background information for me. I'm curious to know about your context. I want to know how you deal with errors in writing. Do you correct all of the errors? Do you circle them? Do you write in the correct answer? Do you ignore them? There are different strategies. I'm curious to know about that. How you give feedback in writing. So error correction, I should also mention, I'm separating error correction and feedback for this. Error correction, I'm thinking of like grammar, vocabulary, punctuation mistakes, and feedback being more kind of those comments about ideas, organization, structure that there might be wrong or right answers to, but really we're trying to improve them. Whereas with grammar and vocab, we can definitely have some just wrong answers. And then finally, I'm curious, here in Kenya, I know you're teaching in different kinds of schools. Some of you are in university, primary, secondary school. How do you assess writing? Do you have essay tests? I'm just curious. So feel free to answer any or all of these questions. You can answer in the chat or feel free to raise your hand. And give me some information and background about yourselves, your context. If you want, you can also just unmute yourself and share your ideas.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
This is Josiah.
Nice to see you, Josiah.
It's fine. How do we deal with errors in writing? Yes.
Yes.
I'll answer that now. With the students, I normally, there are many errors that can occur in writing, including punctuation, spelling, paragraphing. Paragraphing is part of punctuation anyway. So there are many errors that can occur, and these errors, you see, if you have around 70 students, like in public schools in Kenya, you're expected to go through that work, read, and maybe see the mistakes and correct the students. Sometimes you may not be able to go through all that, all the work per student per week, but you can single out maybe a student and talk to him or her. Then after getting probably there could be a common mistake of error in spelling. Then you can do sampling. Then you can now come and teach. If the most students are spelling a particular word wrongly, and it's a common word that is appearing in most of the students as a spelling error, you can now come on maybe in class and you correct that. You give them the correct spelling and then you explain. So that's how I would say I approach the context of my teaching.
That's a good
That's one.
strategy.
So hello.
Oh, keep going.
Sorry, I may not go to the second part. At least I give somebody a chance to answer. Or sometimes while marking, probably like highlighting. Another way you can highlight the mistakes and rewrite. If maybe a student writes girl and then maybe she writes GAL, girl, then I can underline that with the red pen, then above it I write the correct spelling. And through that, later I'll come and teach now those specific words. I think I've just get to the first part. I'll stop there to give somebody else a chance. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. That gives me some nice understanding. And also, I think those are some good suggestions too for dealing with a large class, 70 students. Yeah, it's hard to go through and correct everything for 70 students. Maybe impossible, I think. Lillian has put in the chat, I underline the errors and indicate the error type. So maybe some kind of symbol. I give short comments at the end of every writing assignment, or sometimes I do give verbal feedback. I do give formative and summative assessments. So that I think you're busy, Lillian, with your writing students. Just curious, Lillian, how many students do you have in a class generally for your writing class? $30. Okay, so not 70, but still 30 is a lot. But you are able to it sounds like you are able to give a lot of feedback. Thank you. Great. Anyone else want to share answers to any of these questions? It's not necessary to answer all, but if you have any insight or experience that you want to share, I'm always happy to hear it.
Hi, Mina.
Hi, Jane.
In addition to what Lillian has said, there is also feedback where you have very nice learners or good learners in class. Maybe you can read what they have written, and also for the other learners to also learn from that learner. Yeah, thank you.
I like that. So kind of taking some students and using them as a model for others.
Exactly, yes.
Oh, that's great. That's a great way to use one of your resources, which is your actual students. Very good. All right. Feel free to continue if anyone else has answers. I am going to launch a poll here. So this is kind of related to my third question. How do you assess writing? And so my question is about which aspects you consider when grading. You can choose more than one answer for this, but I'm just kind of curious. I've noticed that different countries and different cultures value different things. It might also depend on what type of school, what level. For example, primary might focus more on punctuation and spelling, whereas university might be looking more at organization or the content development of ideas. Might also depend on the type of class as well. So while you're filling that in, I see Lorian has said most of writing assessments I give to my students are assessed with rubrics. Excellent. Yes, I think rubrics and writing assessment really go well together, and we'll look more at rubrics later on tonight. Great. And I'll give you guys about 30 more seconds to fill in this poll. I see some interesting answers here. Okay, hi, Nancy. Nancy says, I underline the words which has an error, spelling problem. If the spelling is so bad, I rewrite the word for the student. If not, I write T for tense, P for plural, or PL for plural, and so on below. Good. And I specify the error for the learner. Good. Yeah, I think that's a common way. I think when we're working with intermediate and advanced learners, not necessarily giving them the answer, but helping them to figure out the answer. Although, as you say, sometimes like with spelling, when it's clear they have just no idea how to spell it, sometimes it's better to just supply the answer. Great. Go ahead, Josiah, I see your hand is raised. Or maybe it's raised from before. Seth says, in creative writing, I deal with it in parts, like paragraphs, sentence building, spellings, among others. That's another way to approach this. Actually, I wasn't thinking about that, but yeah, kind of a layered approach, depending on what you're dealing with. Good. We'll come back to this idea. And Caroline, hi. Give descriptive feedback where possible. Good. So maybe not just labeling the error, but kind of giving a little bit more information there. I like that. All right, I'm going to end this poll and I'm going to share it with you. Looks like 57% of you have participated in the poll. And I will share the results. And I'm going to take a quick screenshot too, just for my own information here. All right. Let's see. So it looks like grammar, content are big areas, as well as spelling. Interesting. Yeah, things like grammar and spelling, I think are common because they have clear right answers and wrong answers that we can focus on. It makes me happy, though, to see content and development of ideas is also important. This is a difficult area because there isn't necessarily a right and wrong answer. And so often students want us to tell them what's wrong with this, what's the right answer, and it's not something we can do so easily. Very nice. And I see there's a couple other things. Go ahead, Austin.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that for those who are teaching the British curriculum, that is for high school, they look at it in terms of content and quality of writing. So the quality is where the spelling, the punctuation, vocabulary, grammar all falls into that.
All together.
So normally, their marks are located for each. But on the two, the content carries more marks than the quality. Yeah.
Oh, that's very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. And then Lorian says, I teach a large class. I can't label all the errors. I write them down and share them with my students later. We correct them in a shared and reflective discussion. I like this. So more kind of team building, group work. I found it an easy way. I agree. That's a nice way to do it. I also saw a raised hand. I saw it raised and then it disappeared. If you had your hand raised, you can go ahead and speak. I'm sorry, I didn't catch it.
I raised by mistake.
Oh, okay.
I did not intend to raise.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Great. Okay. So in a perfect world, so if we had the perfect teaching situation, we had a small number of students, enough time in our curriculum. Go ahead, Seth, your hand is Seth, do you want to say something?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to say something. I wanted to comment particularly on creative writing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, generally, when we look at creative writing, it varies. One, you look at the paragraph building. That is the structure of the essay a student has written. Then you assess whether there is proper paragraphing. There is a mark for that, of course. It comes to grammar, particularly a huge chunk of the creative writing. Grammar carries a lot because most of the errors that underlined are based on grammar, probably sentence structure, verb, subject, object agreement. And then there is also an aspect of punctuation, which is also grammar. Majorly, generally, it is tricky sometimes to discuss errors that individual students do in a class setup. So you highlight, I normally highlight the errors across the board, and then you come and discuss the specific individual who is affected by the said error will always be looking in the book and see where he had made an error. Then he will know that this one affects him or her directly. But you give a general comment on the structure, the flow, that is the sequence, the grammar, and to some extent handwriting. That is to indicate the level of neatness as well. Although handwriting, basically, it doesn't bear any mark as such, but now it is related to neatness. So to help the reader, maybe read with ease, but basically it is grammar and the structure of the essay writing, or rather the composition of. So that is what we generally look at based on the guideline, even at the highest level, at the national level. Those are
Thank you, Seth. That gives me a nice clear picture of what the priorities are. Thank you.
a summative exam that is normally given. Yeah, okay.
Sorry, you were frozen for a minute. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, thank you.
And Ovinson, I see your hand is up as well. Do you want to share something?
Okay, I wanted to share something about how English is marked in the national exam, how writing is marked at the national level, that is KCSE. So for creative writing, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for creative writing, they're categorized into, the learners are awarded marks in 3 categories. So we have, it is out of 20 marks. And so we have D students, and D students is between 0 to 5 marks. And we have B students, that is between, C students between 5 and 10 marks. We have B students between 10 and 15, and we have an A student who scores between 15 and 20. And how are these marks awarded? So they normally say we mark the linguistic ability of the learner. So a learner in category D is a learner who does not communicate. So yeah, that means the grammar is broken, repetitive, and all that. And then the learner in category C communicates, but with a lot of difficulty. So they are making punctuation errors, they are making tense errors, and all kinds of errors. And then there's the learner in category B who is fluent, but not as creative. And then we have category A. This is now 15 to 20, where you have, they're expressing themselves without any difficulty. And whenever you read their writing, they have what they normally call a spark. Thank you.
Thank you. I like that, a spark, that kind of that certain something that stands out. Great, thank you. All right, so just thinking of the perfect world, I haven't often had this situation, but ideally we would have students work on multiple drafts. So they would have a first draft, a second draft, and revise, working towards their end goal. In a perfect world, the teacher would read all of these drafts and give feedback on each draft. The feedback would be detailed, it would be individual to each student. At some point, the teacher and student would sit down and discuss together. Often we call these writing conferences. And then because of all of this work, the final draft would be nearly perfect. This is not my reality. I've had some nice teaching situations. For example, I worked at a private center, and so the classes were very small. The standards were very high, and we had 2 drafts for each assignment, a rough draft and a final draft. I was able to give feedback for each, and they tended to be detailed and individual, but it was a lot of work. We did sit down together. The final draft was almost never nearly perfect. I don't know if any of you have had similar or better luck with your writing, but I think the reality for most teachers is not this. We're lucky to be able to do drafts. If you have 70 students, you're not going to be able to give detailed individual feedback. You're not going to be able to sit down with every student for every assignment. Someone last week mentioned that often with writing, there would be writing maybe the first day or at the beginning, and then a final writing, and that was the only writing, which if you have 70 students, I can understand that. All right, so some good news when we're looking at error correction. Detailed error correction of grammar and vocabulary is not effective according to studies. So even if a student has many errors, their paper should never look like this. There are some reasons why. Studies and case studies have shown, well, first of all, when a student sees a paper like this, they cannot absorb all of this information. It's very overwhelming and it's very negative. Before they even begin to look at the corrections, they just know that they have done a bad job. And so instantly their mind is closed and they don't feel like they can be successful. So this is not a helpful thing to do. Also, with this many mistakes, students don't process them. They don't learn from all of these corrections. They don't even really notice all of these corrections. Often also the mistakes or errors they're making are not related to the course objectives. And so we're asking them about things that aren't necessarily related to the class. Yes, Seth, I definitely agree with you. Also, when we correct everything for our students, it doesn't teach students to self-edit. Right now, there are students that we can do things for them, but eventually they will be out of our classrooms or they will just be in a test where they're not getting this feedback and error correction. They need to be able to be their own editors, look at their own work, find their own kinds of mistakes. And finally, this is extremely time consuming for the teacher to mark all of these errors. And so modern pedagogy suggests that this is not effective. This is not helpful to students. It's a waste of time. So instead, we want to work on focused correction. So correcting certain things and doing other things like class correction activities. It sounds like some of you are doing things like this. And then also making use of peer and self-correction. So when we're talking about focused correction, we're choosing just 2 or 3 types of errors to focus on. For example, maybe students using verb tenses, or even maybe more specific, differentiating between using the past and the present, especially if it's a lower level. Maybe students are having a hard time with a third person singular or plural, something like this. And so then when we're correcting and marking the paper, we're only going to address these types of mistakes. There can be other errors, and we are not going to address those types of errors. When we do this, we can't just mark the paper either. because a student can just look at the paper and say, and then they don't do anything. We need to make sure that they are rewriting the problem areas so that they're building good habits. And then this was mentioned earlier. Sometimes, especially for low levels, we can cross off the answer and write the correct answer in. But when we're working with higher or intermediate and advanced learners, we want to do things like circle or underline and maybe offer some symbols like tense or T for verb tense. Because the idea is that students should be figuring out for themselves what the error is and how to fix it. If we just give them the answers, they're not really going to learn very much from that. So this would be time saving. Students will get back a paper that doesn't have so much red ink on it. There's also some who believe in not using red ink. Personally, I use pink and purple. Some people feel that it creates too much of a negative feeling. But by focusing only on certain types of errors, we save ourselves a lot of time and we give something much more reasonable for our students to digest and learn from. So we might be thinking, what kinds of errors to correct? What should we be focusing on if we're only going to focus on 2 or 3? So there's some things to consider. One is if the error affects understanding. Pretty much whenever I look at a paper or essay, if I just don't understand what it is, I underline it because maybe it's a really good idea, but I don't understand it. If a student writes something like, yesterday I go to the park, then I understand what they mean. If it's a high level student, I'm actually probably not going to even mark that error. It means they're just not paying attention. I know what they mean, and I know that they know the right answer. If it's a low level student, I will mark it. Also, if the error is often repeated. So if you look at their essay and you notice that they just, every time they try to use a relative clause or an adjective clause, that they mess it up, then that's something I would underline or indicate and maybe even talk to them about, because it's something that they're not just doing it by accident. They're not just doing it because they're moving too quickly. It's something that they're showing me that they don't understand how to do. Another question, is this something that we commonly use in the language? So for example, negative inversion. Never have I met such a wonderful group of professionals. That is actually not so common in the language. And so if a student wrote never I have met, I probably wouldn't focus on that kind of error because it's not something that we actually use that often. And I understand it. And then the final question, is the error related to past or current learning objectives? So in that example I just gave of never have I, if that's something we're actually studying this in this course, or maybe just the last semester or quarter, then maybe I would, because it's part of the course objective. But if it's something we've not really talked about, then also, again, maybe it's something I'm just going to ignore for now. I know it can be hard to ignore mistakes. We might feel like we're not doing our duty as a teacher. We might be worried that someone will accuse us of being lazy, but it really is not effective to correct every error. Students are not going to learn from that. As they focus on these other errors and build up their competency, then we can switch our focus to other types of errors. If you find this topic interesting, a focused error correction, this is a nice article, or I guess it's a blog entry that I found online. This person does a nice job of explaining focused error correction, why it's a good thing to do, how to go about doing it, and some strategies. Go ahead, I just saw a hand raised for TechnoSpark for Air. Hi. TechnoSpark for Air, I don't know your name. but please do feel free.
Hi,
Hi.
my name is Margaret.
Oh, hi, Margaret.
Hi.
Do you have something to share with us?
Not really.
Okay. I just saw your
Yeah.
hand is up. Maybe it was a mistake.
Yeah, no, it was not a mistake. Just that the topic is very interesting.
Ah, okay. Why is
Yeah.
it interesting to you?
Because I'm a teacher and I'm actually getting what you're saying.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that was worth sharing. Thank you.
Okay, welcome.
Mina,
Yes.
I just wanted to comment. I just wanted to encourage the teachers that they should save their names. They should write their names because like Margaret has spoken and it's written techno something. So it is really hard to find out who that is. So I just want to encourage that let us save our names on our gadgets so that it becomes easier. Like, you know, we are going to give a certificate. So if we see a techno, then definitely we cannot write techno on a certificate. Thank you.
That's a good point. Yes. After our last meeting, I remember on the WhatsApp, you were asking, who is this person? Yes.
Yeah, exactly. It becomes a challenge
Yes.
when you're trying to put everything together.
All right. So yes, if this topic of focused error correction, maybe you're not convinced, or maybe you really like the idea of this. I thought it was a really well-written article, supported by a lot of evidence and studies from our field. All right, so other things we can do, and it sounds like these are some things that some of you do. We can use our student errors as content to create different kinds of activities. So again, not only is this good for error correction, but it's also a great way to engage our learners, right? If we just hand them back papers that show all their mistakes and say, fix your mistakes, it gets a little boring and repetitive. So one idea is error correction board race. This is actually one of my favorite warm-up activities when I'm handing back drafts of work. So I think I mentioned earlier, usually in most of my experience with writing classes, we would do a first draft and a second draft. So as I'm returning the first draft, this would be usually our warm up for that class. So on the board, I would use some examples from the student work. I would write it on the board. I would use sentences that only have one error each. Otherwise, it becomes a little bit overwhelming. And then I would split my class into 2 or 3 groups. And at the time we had whiteboards, so they would get a different color marker. And then one student from each group would run up and fix one of the sentences, return to the group, give the marker to another student, and then they would race to correct the mistakes, to find the mistakes and correct the mistakes. And so it was fun because it was movement, it was competitive. Students could see their own work and see how to fix it. And also it's very communicative because there would be some really easy answers, and then there would be some where students were kind of arguing what's the best way to correct it. And then sometimes their corrections would give me some interesting information about their understanding as well. Sometimes I would realize that they are focused on something completely different, and actually we need to address that because they're not understanding. So this is a fun activity. You could also project this. If you had a really big class, you could do this as a worksheet that you hand out to the group, and then you could just have them race to finish it. Something else we can do, I think some of you are familiar with this, would be a gallery walk. Someone talked about a gallery walk last week. So this is something where we could put up students' work. We could hand them some pens and have them walk around and see if they can find mistakes in each other's writing. this is a nice thing to do. I will say sometimes I've had bad experiences. Students sometimes found mistakes that actually weren't mistakes. And so then that would cause confusion. But generally it was something that went well. And then the last thing I have here is a relay. So with the relay, I would take students' work again, find some errors, and then I would type them out on a piece of paper, and I would print one paper for each group. So if I had 30 students, maybe I have them working in 6 groups of 5, so I would print out 6 copies. And then I cut the sentences into strips, and I put them in piles. So group 1, group 2, group 3, like this. And then each group sends one student up to me. They take a piece of paper that has a mistake on it. They take it back to their group. They work together. They fix the sentence. They bring it back to me and I check it. If they have fixed it, then they may take another paper. If it still has a mistake, then they need to keep working to fix the mistake. So one by one, they're correcting these mistakes, and whoever finishes correcting all of them first is the winning team. So again, it's something that incorporates movement. It's competitive. It has the students working together as a group to kind of solve the question or the puzzle. And it's also nice because I, as the teacher, can stay in my chair and the students are bringing me the papers. I don't need to run around and check all of my students. So we're going to try this. I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm going to put you in, actually first, let me do one thing. I'm going to put you in breakout rooms. Sometimes it's hard to navigate all of these screens. Okay. All right, so this is how it's going to work. I'm going to put you into breakout rooms, and you will have a sentence in your breakout room. I'll put it into the chat first. So when you go into the breakout room, you'll already have your sentence. You're going to correct the sentence. And when you have the correction, you're going to ask for help. When you're in your breakout rooms, there's an option to ask for help. When you ask for help, I will come to your room. I will check your answer. If it is correct, I will give you the next sentence to correct, and then I will leave and you'll call me back when you're ready. Be patient. You may ask for help and be waiting for me. It's because I'm in another room checking another group. Any questions? So this is the virtual version. Okay, let's see here. We have 26 participants right now. Okay, I'm going to make 6 groups. So there's 4 or 5 participants in a room. I'm going to put the sentence here in the chat box. And I'm going to open the rooms. When you and your group have the answer, call me and I will come to your room. Paul, I see you have your hand up.
chat box.
Hi.
The sentence.
Yes. Let's see.
Hello, Mina.
Hi, Nancy. Go
Okay,
ahead.
Nancy, you present.
Yes, our sentence is never have I tried skydiving. That's the correct way.
That is excellent. Very good. I'm going to give you the next sentence now.
Yes.
Okay, let me see here. If I put it in the chat, let me see if you can see it. Can you see in the chat? I put a new sentence.
Yes.
Can you read
Yeah,
it?
me and
Okay.
my friend had lunch
Okay,
on Saturday.
gotcha. All right, I'll see you soon. Bye.
All right.
Hi, I think you have the answer. Go ahead.
Yes. We came up with the answer is, the question was never I have tried skydiving. Our answer is never have I tried skydiving.
Excellent.
Thank you.
I have put in the chat the second one. Can you see it?
Wait.
But nope, we can't. I can't find it.
You can't see it in the chat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not.
Let me see if I have another way to share it. Okay, I'll just read it to you. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. We can.
Me and my friend had lunch on Saturday.
Me,
Me and my friend had lunch on Saturday.
we
Okay.
have the answer.
I'll
Okay.
see you soon. I'll be back. Hi, you have the answer?
Yes,
Go ahead.
my friend and I had lunch on Saturday.
Excellent. Nice job. If you look in the chat, I think you can see the next one. Can you see it?
Not yet.
Okay, I'll read it to you then. Number 2 is me and my friend had lunch on Saturday.
We already did that one.
Oh, you already did. Oh, then you're ready for the third one. Oh, my goodness. Okay. How about now? Can you see the third one in the chat?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I think you might win. I'll see you soon.
Must go. Let us just. Oh,
Hi.
Nina is here.
Hi. How are you?
Nina.
Do you have your Hi, do you have your answer?
We don't have it. That's why we have called you.
Oh, okay. If you look in the chat, do you see the sentence number 1? Never I have tried skydiving.
Can you just post it on the WhatsApp group?
Oh, you put it in the WhatsApp.
Yes. Can you put it on the WhatsApp? Because most of us were put into group and we never saw the chat question.
I see. Okay. Unfortunately, my WhatsApp became untangled, but I will read you number 2. Okay.
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 Yeah.
Number
Yes.
2. Me and my friend had lunch on Saturday. Me and my friend had lunch on Saturday. Okay. When you have your answer, let me know. I'll see you soon.
Okay. Teresa.
Yeah.
Hi.
Oh, hey, it's good. The host is also there.
Which one are you on? Which one are you solving?
We are on the first segment that you gave.
Okay, let's hear it.
Never I have tried skydiving.
Good.
That
And
is
your
the question.
and your answer?
Frederick, do you want to go ahead?
No, just proceed.
We were having a spirited debate. We have 2 responses. The first was, never have I tried skydiving.
Ding, ding, ding.
And alternative, never have I ever tried skydiving.
Oh, those are both correct. Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. So Nancy, I'm going to send you the next one.
Okay.
Okay, and then you can share it with your group. Let me see here. Okay. In the chat, Nancy, there should be a sentence there and you can share it with your group.
Okay.
You see it. Okay. Call me when you're ready.
All right. Thank you.
Hi, Yvette.
From your
Hi.
Hi, Mina.
Hi, which one are you working on?
Having finished their exams, the teacher dismissed the students.
Oh, this is the hardest one.
Yeah, it is very tough.
Did you figure it out?
From our perspective, we see
Sorry, you got cut off. From our perspective, you said?
like grammatically the sentence.
You know, grammatically, the sentence is correct, but there is a problem with the meaning of the sentence.
Yeah.
Do you know what it is? So who finished the exams?
I think I figured this out. I don't know. After the students had finished their exams, the teacher dismissed them.
Ding, 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 ding. Well done. You, let's see here. Which room are you? Let's see here. This is room 4. Okay, I'm going to broadcast to all. Room 4 is the winners. Well done. I'll see you back in the main room.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, I can.
Winners are we the group force? Hi.
I'm not hearing Mina. Can I unmute?
Yes, sorry, I've been
Yes.
talking and have been on mute. Thank
Yes,
you very
thank you.
much. Thanks, Frederick. I want to congratulate Team 4. Nicely done. They got it the fastest, although I think they had some good competition. Caroline, you have something to tell us? Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. So I was actually in group 3 and we did have a question. I have tried skydiving. So we never even got a chance to correct the sentence to you. So we just saw group 4 the winners. So we wondered what's going on.
Oh, did you call me to your room?
Yes, like 3 times. I think I did 2, and then Rukia or Irene did once or twice.
I apologize. I think maybe when another group also calls, it only shows me one, because actually I sat for a long time wondering why no one was calling me. I think.
Oh my.
So hopefully if you try something like this in your classroom, you won't have this problem.
Okay.
It can be a little bit tricky. So yes, if you did not win, don't worry. It does not mean I do not think that you are bad students. But thank you for letting me know. You did have your answer.
All right. Okay.
Just to show you all quickly, I think number 1, most of you had very quick. Number 2 as well. Number 3 was a little bit tricky, I think. It seems like a okay sentence. This is a mistake native speakers make as well. The problem here is we have this kind of participial phrase here, or adverbial phrase, having finished their exams. And we know this phrase is talking about the students, but then when we look, it's the teacher who is actually the subject. So this is an incorrect sentence. We would have to change it. And the winning group suggested after the students finished their exams, the teacher dismissed the students. Or we could change this to something like having finished their exams, the students were dismissed, because we need the subject to match what's being described here. Were dismissed by the teacher. So that's kind of hard. Actually, many native speakers would not get this. Nicely done. All right, so moving on, let's go back to our PowerPoint. Oh, the time is passing quickly. Okay, tried this. All right, so moving on, we're going to talk about self and peer correction. So you are the teacher, you are one person. Oh, we've got something in the chat here. Cheering for group 6. You are one teacher, and some of you have 30 students. 30 students is still a lot for a writing class. Some of you have 60 or 70 students. That is a lot for a writing class. Actually, for any kind of class, I think that's a lot. A class with 60 to 70 students is really only suitable, I would say, for like a lecture type situation. But we do what we have to do. So we should make use of these other people that are in our classrooms, our students. So by using self-evaluation or self-correction, we're teaching that skill where students are looking at their own mistakes, building autonomy, and then peer correction, where students are helping each other, usually as partners, pairs, or groups. So some advantages here is that it provides additional opportunity to analyze writing. When you pair up students and ask them to analyze and correct each other's writing, you're basically giving them a real life exercise. Instead of giving them exercise from a textbook, it's something real. I'm sorry. Yes, some of you tried to reach me, but cannot because I was with other groups. I apologize. Don't take it personally. Another good thing about self and peer correction is it builds awareness. The mistakes aren't clear. It's like a puzzle or a search. They have to find them themselves. So this is a good exercise and builds good skills, awareness, and habits. As I mentioned, this also promotes learner autonomy. Learners have to find their own mistakes or each other's mistakes, and they cannot always rely on the teacher. The teacher will not be with them for all of their lives. As an adult, I have to do a lot of writing, and I have to correct things myself. Sometimes I have colleagues that will look at my writing for me and give feedback, but I'm always my first editor and my last editor.
And so these are skills we need to make sure our students have for themselves, that they don't just write something and, oh, the teacher will find my mistakes for me. We get more feedback when we do self and peer correction, especially maybe first these two partners switch, and then when they're done, they take their papers back, and maybe then these two partners switch. And so they may be getting different ideas from others. And then finally, when we have students working together, we have an interactive and communicative classroom, which is something we always want. Students not just sitting and listening, not just sitting and writing, sitting and reading, they have to interact with each other as well. So how we go about this may be different depending on the level. If we're doing something with beginners, this is something I do with my very beginners. They would write a paragraph, and either they would do this themselves or they would change papers. And in the paragraph, they had to circle every subject in the sentence, and they had to underline every verb in the sentence. Where I was, it was an international school. We had students from all over the world, and almost all of them had trouble with making sure there was a subject and verb in every sentence. In some languages, I think including Swahili, you don't always have to have the subject in the sentence. Sometimes it's just clear what the subject is. This is true in Spanish, Russian, lots of languages. And then in some languages, you don't always have to have a verb, especially the be verb. So I would have a lot of students just writing I happy instead of I am happy. So making sure there's a subject and verb in every sentence. This is something beginners could do, and it helped build awareness. So they had to look at every sentence and make sure there was a circle and a line. For my intermediate students, I tended to do something a little more difficult. So a lot of times with intermediate students, it was making sure that there was one paragraph with one topic. And so either for themselves or with a partner, they had to identify the topic of the paragraph, underline the topic sentence, and make sure that the details supported the topic sentence. So this is just a sampling of some questions they might have. For advanced learners, I would give them a whole worksheet and have them fill this out. Usually I would have them do this in pairs. They would fill out the worksheet according to their partner's essay, and then they would discuss together. When I was working with larger classes, the classes themselves were small. There were only 15, but I had 6 groups of 15 all studying the same thing. I could not read all of their first drafts. So for their first drafts, they did peer correction and peer feedback first. And then I only read their final drafts because I could not read 140 papers. 70 was much more reasonable number. It's not perfect, but at least they had a chance to get some feedback, a chance to look at their work and think about what needed improvement. All right, it's time for us to take a creative break. Not just you, students also need a creative break. And so we're going to do some haiku. Does anybody know what a haiku is? I love haikus because they're short. Thank you, Nancy, for your honesty. I have no idea. So haiku is a traditional Japanese poem. They're usually about the change of season, but I think in their modern day, they can be about anything we want, but there are some specific rules of haiku. They're very short. They are 3 lines long. The first line has 5 syllables, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Second line has 7 syllables, and then the last line has 5 syllables. So for an example, an ocean voyage, 5 syllables, as waves break over the bow, 7, the sea welcomes me. So we see 5, 7, 5. It's short, Only 3 lines. It's a poem. It doesn't need to rhyme. Another example. A fat bee stings me. It hurts very badly, but I do not cry though. I love these haikus because the rules are very different than the rules of writing as we usually think of them. The only rules are about syllables. And so we can even see in this example, there's actually a grammar mistake. We don't use but and though together in the same sentence, but it's okay because it's a haiku. Maybe you don't use a subject. We don't have to follow these grammar rules. We can use vocabulary very freely. And so this is a nice break from our usual writing. So I would love for you to share your haikus with me. You can write about anything you want. You can put them in the chat. Make sure you don't push enter till you put the whole thing. Otherwise, your poem will become separated. It should be something with 5 syllables, 7 syllables, and 5 syllables. I'll see if I can think of one and also write it in the chat. What am I thinking about? I'm going to write it on paper first. Yes, Rukia, anyone can be a poet with haiku, which is a nice thing. Go ahead. Okay, you can see mine in the chat. ELPAK is a group. The participants are great. Learning together. See, I'm a poet. If you don't have the patience for typing, but you have your poem, you can also read it to us. Oh, a lightning flash between the forest trees. I have seen water. Wow. Oh, that's very poetic, Judith. Bravo. I also encourage you later to share in our WhatsApp group. Later tonight, maybe you are inspired with some poetry and you want to share it with us. It is a fun thing. I've done this with lots of different groups. I've done this with beginner students to teach syllable awareness. I've also done this as kind of a writing exercise. Oh, how far should I go? Only the teacher knows. What she says goes. Oh, I like that. Nancy, you also managed to rhyme. Oh, you are a poet. Excellent. Nicely done. Bravo. I traverse so much over the land yonder and far, just to see my love. Oh, Teresa, very romantic. I hope you keep that. Oh, Okay, I see the first line from Tiberius. I stand and stare. I'm going to take a screenshot of our poem so far too. Oh, Tiberius, we're waiting. Oh, I stand and stare, no one ever to love and care. Oh, yours also rhymes. I see we have some real poets in here. Oh, I see we have some other poets coming in here. Josiah, a ray of light here. Okay, Nancy has her complete poem. Teaching is fun. It makes one wiser and explore the world. Oh, I totally agree. Rukia, temperatures are high. Oh, how unbearable the heat. I need to cool down. I can definitely relate to your poem. It's okay, Josiah. It's a great start. Great teachers inspire. Sweet waters are for many. Oh, you really are some poets here. I think that's the other nice thing about these is that they can be very poetic and they also can just be kind of fun and funny. Okay, we see Josiah's is coming along. Okay, I think Josiah, a ray of light here. Though July is near. Oh, and then we see Caroline. Sweet waters are for many. Only a few people get to taste. Oh, and Tiberius has finished his. Let's see here. Okay. Tiberius, I stand and stare, no one ever to love and care. I will be still always. And Seth can't bounce like a tennis ball. Okay, I'm going to move on because we only have 15 minutes. Although now I see the ending to Caroline's. Okay. Sweet waters are for many. Only a few people get to taste. Oh, how I want to be. Oh, that's lovely. Very lovely. I think maybe you all have future careers as poets. All right, managing feedback. So just kind of some advice. First, scaffold the writing process, plan for success. I think maybe those of you who have attended the other sessions, maybe you can see that I'm really into scaffolding. I never just come to class and say, okay, everybody now write your essay or write your paragraph. There's brainstorming, there's planning, going through the steps. Oh, Seth, I think you have an interesting poem coming along. And so we want to really set students up for success, making sure that each stage of the writing process, that they know what they're doing, that they're competent. And so that bad writing just isn't just a result of students who don't know what they're supposed to be doing. Oh, sorry, we have another haiku. I was being carried away, realized it was a dream, fell down from the bed. I love that. And Seth, I'm still wondering about the final line of yours because I see, I can't bounce like a tennis ball. How do baby boys bounce? When you're working with your learners, you want to, Frederick, I'll be right back for you. You want to make sure that you catch issues early on. So while you're scaffolding the writing process, you want to make sure that you are looking at students' outlines, catching mistakes there. And then even while they're writing, I usually walk around, not the whole time, but I usually do some walking around to make sure and kind of just glance over students' shoulders to make sure they're on track. For example, I usually look at their introduction and make sure that there is actually a thesis statement. Or if I see a student who's just sitting there not doing anything, I go over and help them. I see that we have somebody, a cartoon figure. Lorian, did you want to share something with us? Oh, I think you're just, I think you're just accidentally unmuted. While we're here, we have Frederick's haiku. The first cold shower, even the monkey seems to want a little coat of straw. Oh, that's adorable. Oh, I love that. I love that visual. If you have a giant class of 70 students, even I would say 30 is just really the maximum. I can't imagine having to give feedback to more than 30 students. You might just give feedback on sampled items. So I've done this when working with many students. Maybe I give them all feedback on their introductions only. And maybe they only write their introductions. So maybe in class today, you're going to make your outlines, write your introductions. I collect the introductions. And that kind of gives me an idea of who's going to need more help, who do I need to keep an eye on, and who do I think can really just keep going. Or you might just select some individuals. So if you have 60 students, maybe for the first essay, you give detailed feedback to 15 of them or so, and then the next essay to the next 15, so that everybody gets some personal feedback from you. But yeah, 70 is just not going to work. Use self and peer feedback, not just for correction, but also for other things such as organization and development. And I would say use questions when you're doing self and peer feedback. If you just tell 2 students to change papers, look at your partner's paper, tell them what they need to work on and tell them what's good. In my experience, students just write everything is good, or they write unorganized. Well, that's not really very helpful, right? So we want to make sure that students know what they're looking for, what kind of feedback to give. And then finally, making use of rubrics. All right, I know someone can tell me this. What is a rubric? You can unmute and tell me, or you could put it in the chat. Oh, good, Lillian. Lillian, are you able to tell us in what way peer feedback has worked for you? Okay, they marked each other's essays. Yes, that is definitely a nice way to do it too. Very good. When I've had situations where I then collect it, it's also nice to see what the learners are marking for each other too. We can also see a lot. I think most of you know what a rubric is here. I think you're often using it. It sounds like those standards you're using for the national tests that were described earlier use a rubric. So basically, this is a set of categories with descriptions for our learners. If someone doesn't know what a rubric is, please say something, but I'm going to move on. I think most of you know. What are the benefits of using a rubric? I think some of you could speak to this. You could put it in the chat, or you could answer aloud. Good, Seth. It's a scoring guide. Yes, I think that's a nice way. Go ahead, Seth.
Yeah, I think a rubric generally is just a scoring guide, probably on a given project, or it could be related to some performance based on a given criteria. But it's just a a guide on what is expected. If it is based on a project, what is expected out of a project? Maybe someone has done some project and there is an evaluation. You want to evaluate the project vis-a-vis what is expected, or performance. You want to evaluate performance vis-a-vis what is expected. Generally, it is just a guide. That's how I understand it.
Yeah, that's a nice description. And I'm glad that you pointed out that it's not something we use just for writing. It can be used for any kind of performance. It's great for things that don't have necessarily right answer, wrong answer. So if students perform a dialogue, or they write a story, or they create a poster, rubrics are great for all of those. Thank you. Tiberius, the scoring guide used to evaluate performance. Yes, that's a nice, nice description. Anyone want to speak to the benefits of a rubric? It sounds like we have a lot of fans of rubrics. I'm a big fan of rubrics myself. Oh, I see two people have their hands raised. Who are you? Nancy, go ahead.
Okay, I think rubrics helps the learner to know what exactly they should put weight on as they are performing, either it's a project or it's a writing. So when you give them a rubric, they'll be able to know where they'll put more weight and where they'll put less weight. Hence, they'll be able to reach the goal of the test. And also to the teacher who will use the rubric to mark, the teacher will also know what to focus on when they're marking. So they might tend to be like maybe less focused with some areas, because in that particular test, they were focusing on something specific. Let's say like if it is writing, they're focusing on grammar, or maybe they're focusing on content, or they're focusing on tense. So they only focus maybe much more on tense than how they would focus on grammar or any other part.
Yeah, thank you. I like especially that you've pointed out that it has an advantage for both the students and the teacher. And yeah, it helps us to guide our focus. Very good, thank you. Stephen says creates uniformity in assessment. Yes, and it identifies weak areas for correction. That's excellent. Yes, I would totally agree with that. And then Seth, okay, you've put your hand down. Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to add something on rubric. Basically, it helps to give a bit of clarity, to clarify, that is for the learners, so that in case there is something the learners didn't do well in the next level or next time, it can help the learner improve performance. It will also be of benefit to the teacher in the sense that you look at what the learners have done vis-a-vis the expectation, but basically it's just to help on improve. Actually, it also, to some extent, it also inspires the learners' performance, because now they will also look at the performance vis-a-vis what is expected of them. So it's beneficial to the learner because it's a bit of an inspiration to the learner, so that they would improve probably next time, just in case they didn't match the standards, what is expected of them.
Yeah, that clarity that you mentioned. Very good. Excellent. Irene says that in composition writing is the common starting sentence or sentences given to learners for guidance purposes. Yeah, very good. That guidance that it serves. And Lorian says short rubrics are being clarity and focus, as well as what standard of performance is expected. Yeah, it's a great expectation setter. Great. So I think exposes gaps and weaknesses in learners' writing. Very good. So I think you've all hit on these main points. So it makes the expectations clear to students. So if we make sure that students see the rubrics beforehand, they know what's expected of them, what to focus on. It acts as the criteria so that students can assess their own work. We can ask students to use rubrics for self-assessment and for peer assessment as well. Provides transparency. So there's nothing worse than getting a grade and not knowing why. So imagine you wrote something, you get a low grade and there's no explanation. Well, with a rubric, we can clearly see why you got the grade that you got. And then this is for the teacher here, increases reader reliability. If we just look at an essay and say, okay, this is a B, this is an A, it's not really fair. Teachers are humans. If you're in a good mood, it's easy to give good grades. If you're really tired and you're in a bad mood, it's easy to give lower grades. It's something I've noticed with myself. But these descriptors on the rubric help us to kind of maintain this, what is the word, consistency. Good. Yeah, very good, Josiah. It makes scoring faster and easier. I think I was going to put that. Yes, it minimizes grading time. Helps students on self-assessment and reflecting. Yes, it does. Very good. And one way to promote competency, skills, and values. Very good. Yeah, so in the end, when we're using this rubric, instead of having to write every single comment, we circle the descriptions. And so students can see this is the best box that describes their work. And so they're getting feedback right away. We might also add some other comments, but they are getting feedback, and definitely cuts down on grading time. Excellent. All right, and running late. Just some other ideas to build good habits. One of them is journal writing. So this is kind of an informal writing students do in their notebooks. You might have them do it every class or a few times a week. That might be something they do at home, kind of like a diary. And it's free writing. So you might give them a topic to write about, or they might choose their own. And the purpose here is to build writing fluency. So they become more comfortable expressing their ideas through writing. They don't have to worry about a grade. This is something that's not assessed. So they're free to experiment with their vocabulary and grammar, not worry about those things. It may be something the teacher collects sometimes and maybe puts some comments in, or another way to do it is where students are partners. And so they take turns reading each other's journals and responding in them. It's another way to do it. Something else that's very helpful is speed writing. So this is a timed writing to build writing fluency. Most assessed writing is done with a time constraint. So if we think of IELTS writing or TOEFL writing, or I imagine a national exam, students aren't given as much time as they want. They tend to need to do their writing quickly in a set amount of time. And so speed writing is important. During speed writing, students get a topic and they just write as fast as they can. They don't worry about vocab, they don't worry about organization, they don't worry about ideas. So if we think about like a soccer player, soccer players when they're training do all different kinds of exercises, or a runner even. Sometimes they do running for endurance, sometimes they do running for speed, sometimes runners go to the gym and lift weights. So same thing with writing here, they are just building their fluency. And we're going to do a super fast timed writing. You can type if you want to type, or you may have a piece of paper if you want a piece of paper. We're only going to do this for 1 minute. I'm going to do 1 minute timed writing. Do not begin yet. I'm going to give you a topic. All right. For 1 minute, you are going to write about your favorite food. Ready, set, go. You can type or you can handwrite. Your goal is to write for the full minute. Don't stop, don't think. Just write. You're halfway through. Five, 4, 3, 2. All right. You don't have to do this, but I encourage you to take a picture of your writing or a screenshot of your writing. You can share it in the WhatsApp group and we can see how much you wrote. Okay, finally, I have a poll for you. I want to know what we're going to do on Thursday. Right now, I have no idea. But through this poll, I will figure out what we're doing on Thursday and most of our sessions beyond. So I am going to stop sharing and I'm just going to give you the poll. Please fill in this poll. Now, it says that there are multiple questions. There's only question number 1. Actually, can I fix this right now? I cannot. Okay. There's only question number 1 here. It says, what topics would you like to see in future sessions? You may choose as many as you want. There's assessment, rubrics, project or task-based learning, inductive teaching, learning stations, English and STEM or STEAM, pronunciation, vocabulary, mixed level classrooms, and beyond book reports. Question number 2 is a mistake. Ignore it. Please answer question number 1. If there's something on here, not on here, please send it to me on WhatsApp or email or tell me right now. There was also, I apologize, last week there was someone who mentioned flipped classroom and I didn't write down who it was. I'm also, if somebody wants to share their own topic and discuss it, put together a presentation, it doesn't have to be an hour and a half. Please let me know. I'm happy to support you and help you with your presentation. So whoever that was with flipped classroom, if they want to let me know. I didn't write it down last week. And then it wasn't recorded in the chat either, unfortunately. Question 2, please skip question 2. It's a mistake. Also, question 3 is a mistake. I don't know what happened. There's only question 1. Oh, I see. Thank you, Jane, for explaining. I apologize. Okay. Thank you, Nancy and Jane. I won't pay attention to the answers for questions 2 or 3. So just put whatever you like for those. I'm sorry. If you finished the poll, you're welcome to go. Oh yeah, sorry, just I think that as Nancy and Jane said, you have, in order to submit, unfortunately, you have to answer all the questions, which is annoying. I apologize. You can just, for question 2 and 3, you can just put the first answer and skip. Let's have a group photo. Okay. That would be great. If you can turn on your camera, that would be awesome. Oh, I just found a cool way to do this. Let me see if I can find one that has more. Okay. I'm going to take a group photo here. I don't know if everyone's in this, but
Ask them to
very
smile.
cute.
They can smile.
Okay, and I'll take one regular one like this. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Ah, those are very cute. Thank you. All right. If you haven't filled the poll, please do. It looks like about 55% of you did. If you've filled the poll, then I will see you on Thursday with some kind of interesting topic. Oh, it looks like many of you are interested in English and STEM. Okay. Oh, I hear a rooster. Thanks, Nancy.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead, Sam.
Mina,
Yeah.
please.
Thank you. The class has been amazing. Thank you.
Where I was standing.
Sorry, Seth, can you say that again?
I'm saying where I was standing, it was too dark. Please, can you take another group photo?
Yes, yes, I can.
Please
Okay.
do.
Okay, here we
Great.
go. For those of you who are still here, 1, 2, 3. Oops. Oops.
Nice.
Nice. And here we'll do one of those special ones too. Okay, here we go. All right. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And I'll share those on WhatsApp. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Mina. Good evening.
Good evening. Is anyone
Thank
still?
you.
Thank you, Mina.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a good session.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Hi, it was great.
Thanks, Seth.
See you all on Thursday.
Set over there.
Thank you, Mina. Thank you, Paul, for attending.
A big salute.
Thanks, Paul.
Let's take another picture of
Paul
you.
was my student. He's a teacher now. Thank Frederico Malo. Seth, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
That's great. That's great. Thank you. Yeah, and Jane, thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes.
Is anyone still working on the poll? Oh, no, I have 100% participate. Okay, we're all set. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Leonard.
Thanks, everybody.